In this video, guys, I've got a customer. He brought in a Howa Model 1500. This is a very well built rifle, and for a Japanese made rifle, this is a very well built rifle. It has been around for a while, and the customer that brought it to me, I think he said he got it when he was about 10 years old or something like that. He's about my age, so he's had it for about 17, 18 years. I'd say pushing 20 years. So it's a really nice, well-built rifle. Like I said, the stock is a well-built stock, and it resembles a Remington, if you ask me. I think it does. But anyway, got some rusting on the barrel. And I installed a new light down here, so I have two fluorescent lights down here now, and I'm hoping that the lighting helps out with the video quality. But the barrel is it's rusted bad. So one of two things was either going to have to happen. Either it was going to have to be stripped down and re-blued, or Duracoated. And in this case, I Duracoated the shotgun for him. The Benelli Nova. If you haven't seen that video, go check that one out. But I did the barrel on it, and he was so impressed with it that he wants me to Duracoat the barrel on this thing. Like I said, it's an older rifle. It's not an expensive rifle, and so there's not a lot of collector value to it, so he wants to Duracoat it. This one's in a 270 cartridge, and I think it's just a pimp little rifle. The bolt is super sticky on it, so this is kind of going to be a project gun, not a long project, but we're going to do a couple of things, a couple of different services that I offer here at HPFirearms. One, we're going to do the Duracoating. Two, we're going to be doing what I call the super clean. It's where I go through the gun, break it down, give it a good cleaning, do a safety and functions check on it, mechanical check, trigger check, and all that good stuff. And then we're also going to be doing what I call bolt brightening. And that's basically where I use a JB bore polish and polish up the bolt. I'll take the whole bolt apart and get it all cleaned up. It has some rust on the tip of the bolt. We're going to get that cleaned up, get it polished up, and we'll have a nice slick rifle once we get done. Also, I think I'm going to go ahead and give him a coat of wax on the stock just to make it look really good and help protect it for the future years. So we're going to be Duracoating a lot of parts on this rifle. But in this video, all I want to do is introduce the disassembly and reassembly to you. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so if you hear panting in the background, it's not me. We got Chester down here with me, hanging out. It's real hot outside, so he's down here hanging out in the coolness of the basement. And so he'll probably be sniffing around, chewing on something here in a little bit. But anyway, so if you hear it, that's what it is. First thing we're going to start with, guys, on this one, normally I don't like to remove someone's optic off of the rifle because it's zeroed in. In this case, we're pretty much going to have to. We're going to be Duracoating the rifle. I'm not going to Duracoat the scope. It's got a nice brushed black oxide finish on it, and it's in really good shape, so there's no reason to go there. I will, however, be doing the rings and all the other parts of the gun. But first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the scope. Just remember, as always, anytime you're doing any gunsmithing, always use a properly fitted screwdriver so that we don't end up with boogers all over our screws. That will really be the test for kitchen gunsmiths. So we're going to go ahead and just as simple as that, remove the optics. This one's on a rail mount, so it's real easy to remove. So we got that removed there. I'll also be taking the mounts off as well here in just a little bit, but first I want to go ahead and get the rifle broke down. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is, or second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this sling. Kind of a pain in the butt to do any work on them when you have a sling on here. So we're going to go ahead and get the sling off of here. There's something we need to fix. There's that swing swivel's coming out. So that's another reason why whenever you do any work on a gun, or just simple maintenance, you know, stuff like something simple like taking the sling off, you'll discover things like a loose sling nut, swivel nut. So that's something that we're going to have to address. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the bolt. All right, from the gun. What you want to do for that is first we want to clear our rifle. Make sure there's nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber. Obviously, you guys aren't idiots, but for whatever reason, people still have negligent discharges while they're cleaning weapons. Can't figure it out. So be sure you can clear the rifle. All right, before we remove the bolt, we want to go ahead and drop the hammer. And so we need to put it on fire. Drop the hammer. We're going to check that when we recock. This one actually cocks on pull, so as soon as you unlock it, it's cocked back up there. So we want to go ahead, pull the bolt back, and then there's a button right here on the left hand side. Just push that down and pull the bolt right out of the back of the gun. Alright, so there's the bolt. We're going to set that aside, and we'll disassemble that in just a little bit, even more. Alright, the next step is to go ahead and remove the action in the barrel from the stock. Alright, so once again, with a properly fitted screwdriver, we want to go ahead and remove our front screw, or our forward screw, pull it out, and then our rear screw, which will be our, we're going to call it our tang screw. Screwdriver bit's just a little bit too fat. There we go, that one fits good. So go ahead and remove that. And now our stock should separate from the receiver just like that. Very simple setup on those guys. Nothing fancy about it at all. Alright, and then to remove your trigger assembly, or your trigger guard I should say, and box or mag box cover here, just simply, once you get the screws removed, pull it out from the stock just like that. Now we have our stock removed from the rest of the gun. The stock is in really good shape. Like I said, the nut here on the front for the sling swivel is loose, but other than that, it's in really good shape. No cracks, no stress fractures. So, good shape. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside. Alright, so the next step in my disassembly process, and keep in mind I'm going to be Duracoating this, so I'm breaking it completely down. Alright, I recommend that you break it down to a certain point for cleaning, and I'll let you know where to stop on that part. Alright, most of this stuff is very, very simple design, very easy to maintain and use. Alright, and get back together. Next thing will be to remove the mag box and all that. It's just a piece of bent steel, and it's actually spring set in there, and it's just the tension of that steel expanding that holds it in there. So just pull that right out, set that aside. Alright, then our next step is going to be to go ahead and remove our trigger assembly, which is a very simple trigger assembly to remove. We're going to go ahead and remove that from our action. Alright, so we've got one Phillips head screw right in front of the trigger here. Go ahead and remove that. And then just simply pull your trigger assembly off. That's going to be your trigger, your safety, and everything right there together. So set that aside. And now I've got one more thing I need to remove here, and that is going to be our bolt release. And it's simply held in by this one flathead slotted screw here. So let's find us the bit that fits that. Now, in regular disassembly and cleaning, you probably don't need to remove this. And one thing I am going to point out, when you do remove it, one, the screw is tiny, and two, right here, there is a little spring, and that's your return spring. Alright, so don't lose that little spring. Be really easy pulling that out so that you don't end up losing that. That's going to pull right off of there, and then we're going to go ahead and remove the spring. There's the spring, tiny little guy. Alright, it fits up in a hole there, so we're going to keep that together. Alright, and at this point, that's about all that you're going to need to disassemble it to clean it. As a matter of fact, that's about all the disassembly there is to it. Now give me a minute, let me go ahead and remove these scope mounts and all that good stuff, and then I'll be back with you and we'll disassemble the bolt. Alright guys, so before we move on to disassembling our bolt, there's a couple things I want to go over with you. And in this case, we're going to be Duracoating a lot of parts. And anytime you've got a lot of disassembly and you've got a lot of screws and things, and you think you're going to have a hard time remembering where they go, for instance, on our scope mounts, alright, the back has longer screws than the front. Okay? So you need to remember that the back screws are the long screws, the front screws are the short screws. So the way that we do that, the way we remember that, is by simply one of two things. I have little baggies. They're little baggies, and I'll take a permanent marker and write it on there. But if you don't have baggies, what you can do is just simply take a piece of masking tape and take your permanent marker and write back scope screws. Okay? So you just write that on there with a permanent marker. And then you're going to rip a piece of your tape off. You're going to lay your screws in it, just like this, and then fold them up in the tape. Now the tape will hold them together so they won't go nowhere, and then you also have a note on there to tell you what screws those are for. Alright, so that's one method, and the other method obviously is the baggie. So let me get this stuff labeled up real quick, and then we'll get to taking apart this bolt. Alright guys, so the bolt disassembly is very simple. I'm hoping that it comes apart pretty easily, but it's been setting for a while, so we'll see. First thing I want to do is I'm using a rag just for some extra grip, plus it's greasy, so that might work like that. Anyway, so I'm gonna hold the bolt facing, with the bolt face facing away from me, so the charging handle's back here just like it would be in the bolt. So I want to grab the rear here and I want to spin it clockwise about 1/3 of a turn until it pops back like that, and then all you're going to do is just remove the pin and the spring and all that good stuff just like that. So once you remove the firing pin and spring assembly from the bolt, that's about as far as you're going to take it for disassembly. You can use a bore brush and some solvent and clean out the inside here, and then also just use some solvent and clean this up as well. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the disassembly part. So let me get this thing cleaned up, and then I'll be back with you guys after I get the barrel Duracoated and everything is complete. Then we'll do a reassembly. Alright, guys, so we've got our Howa Model 1500 all cleaned up. And in this case, we've got everything Duracoated and it's hardened up now. So we're ready to go ahead and do the reassembly. So I'm going to take you backwards through the reassembly, basically the same way we disassembled. Alright, so that way, and it may not be in the same order, but that way if you can't figure out something, at least you can refer to what I'm talking about. Now, I've already gotten our trigger frame assembly put back together here, and I've got our mag box release installed back in there. That's all Duracoated up now, so that's good to go. I'm not going to bore you with reassembling that. It's just two pins that holds that whole thing together. So what we're going to start with is we're going to go ahead and start with the basic trigger assembly and the bolt release that goes on the side of the rear tang here. So I'm going to open up my little baggie with that I've labeled bolt release. Alright, and that's going to consist of one spring and one little screw. Alright, and that's going to hold our bolt release. It's going to hold it in place. Alright, and then obviously the spring allows it to spring back forward. Now, I didn't clean the little screws and stuff as we went, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to wipe them off as we reinstall them. So the first thing we want to do is wipe our screws and our spring off here. Alright, Okay, now on the bottom of the actual rear of the tang here, in case you don't remember when we took it apart, your bolt release actually sets, there's a groove right here, so the front of the boat right there is going to set upside down in that spring, or in that slit. Let me go ahead and zoom in here so you guys can see a little bit better. I really need a cameraman. Okay, now you should be able to see what's going on here. Alright, so we have our little boat here, alright, and it's going to go upside down. This slit right here is where the tip of that boat actually goes. Now back here, and it may be hard for you to see because it's all black, there's a little hole. Alright, that spring just goes right in that hole, just like that. Alright, and then we have our little screw here. So we're going to take the front of the boat, stick it in here with the spring against the rear of the boat, and then just push it up into alignment and put our screw down through the hole. And we'll go ahead and just start it with our fingers there. So you can see it's very simple to reinstall that. Just got to get me a screwdriver here. Just going to go ahead and tighten that down now. Now, you should be able to push forward on it, and the spring is what activates it and resets it. Alright, so that's pretty simple. Now we're going to flip it upside down like this, and we have our trigger assembly here. Now I haven't taken the trigger assembly apart, so you probably shouldn't either unless you're more experienced at this, but I left it together. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and add just a little bit of grease because I used a degreaser on it. I'm going to take a little bit of my grease and plug right down through there, just so it's got, get it to come out. This stuff is so thick. Oh, it would help to take the cap off, huh? There we go. Alright, so I'm going to take a little bit of grease. Not much, just a little bit. There's a little spring down in there. We want to make sure that doesn't rust up. Alright, so right down in there. And then I'm going to tab a little bit of grease right here on this spring. And then right here on the back of the trigger, I'm just going to go right up in there with it. Not much, just a little bit. You guys know how I am about grease. So anyway, then we'll take our trigger assembly and we'll just set it right back on top of our firearm, right like that. Let me get the screw for that. Once again, got my little bag that's labeled trigger. Alright, and then we will take our screw, get a screwdriver tip here. Go ahead and reinstall the trigger. Just like that. So that's done. So our next step now is to go ahead and reinstall the barrel into the frame of the stock. So let me go ahead and zoom back out here. Now I've already cleaned up the stock. If you want to see how I did that by just using wax, then go check out my video on simple stock reconditioning. So we're just going to install it right over top here. we've got our 2 screws. First thing we need to do is make sure that we put our trigger frame in here. Alright, now our long screw is going to go in the rear, and our short screw is going to go in the front. Let's get a screwdriver bit. Remember, always use properly fitted screwdriver. So I know that one started. Let me make sure that this one starts now. Now our next step after this, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the actual spring assembly for the, you guys see me there? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the spring assembly that holds the rounds in place. Simple as that. Alright, and then our next step is to just reinstall the bolt. Now I've already reassembled the bolt, so it's already good to go. So all we're going to do is go ahead and just reinsert it, just like that. And that's pretty much it. The only thing I have left to do is just go ahead and reinstall the scope rings and the mount and the scope. Alright guys, so as you can see, disassembly and reassembly of the Howa 1500 is very simple. It's very straightforward, and this is an excellent rifle. Like I said, Japanese made, nice little hunting rifle, and now that it's all Duracoated, it'll keep that rust off. So anyway guys, until next time, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.